Your wife was seen with another man last night. Those words didn't just land in my ear. They hit my chest, like someone shoved me hard, and smiled while doing it. I was standing in the kitchen, one hand on the counter, the other holding my son's lunchbox open, peanut butter on bread, apple slices, a napkin with a little note that said, "Be brave today." That was my routine. That was my life. And then my phone buzzed. It was Kareem, an old friend, the kind who doesn't call unless it matters. I answered without thinking. "What's up?" There was a pause, like he was deciding whether to ruin my morning or protect my peace. Then he said it anyway. "I need to tell you something, brother. I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else." I laughed once, a short, stupid laugh. "Hear what?" He took a breath. "Last night, I saw Leo." My hand froze over the lunchbox. "Okay." She wasn't alone. My throat tightened. Where? Near the river cafes. The ones with the lights. She was dressed up like she was going somewhere special. I stared at the bread like it had answers. Kareem kept going, voice low, careful. She was with a man. Tall, clean suit. They were laughing, like they didn't have a care in the world. He had his hand on her back. My mind tried to fight it. Maybe it was her cousin. Maybe it was her colleague. Maybe Kareem misunderstood. So I asked a question that can save you or shatter you. "Are you sure it was her?" "I'm sure," he said. I stood there because I didn't believe it either. Then I watched them get into the same car. My heart made a slow, heavy drop, like an elevator cable snapped. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even blink. And the worst part? My son walked into the kitchen at that exact moment, rubbing his eyes, hair messy, smiling like the world was safe. "Dad," he mumbled, "is Mom taking me today?" I looked at him, and I felt something crack inside me. Because if this was true, then my child was the one paying the price for a secret he didn't even know existed. I turned away from him quickly, so he wouldn't see my face. Kareem's voice came to the phone again. "Brother, I'm sorry. I had to tell you." I swallowed. Hard. What did the man look like? Kareem described him. The watch, the car, the confident walk. And as he spoke, something ugly woke up in me. Not rage yet, not screaming, not breaking things. Something colder, something quieter. Because anger is loud. But planning? Planning is silent. I ended the call and stared out the window at the street below, watching normal people live normal mornings. Then my son tugged my sleeve. "Dad." I knelt down and forced a smile. The kind parents learn. The kind that hide storms. "Yeah, champ. Mom's busy today. I'll take you." He nodded like it was nothing, like it didn't matter, but it mattered, because as I zipped up his jacket, I realized something. If my wife was living a double life, then I wasn't just a husband being betrayed. I was a father being played. And I didn't know it yet, but that morning was the last morning I would ever be innocent. And the first morning I started, on the drive to school, my son hummed a song he made up. It was off-key, silly, pure. He pointed at a dog. He asked if clouds ever get tired. He said he wanted pancakes for dinner. And I kept nodding, answering, smiling, like I wasn't mentally replaying Kareem's words over and over like a cruel movie. Near the river cafes. Dressed up, same car. I had always believed I knew my wife. Leo, the woman who used to laugh with her whole body. The woman who cried during sad commercials. The woman who held my hand when my father passed away and whispered, "We'll be okay." We met at a friend's engagement party. She wore a simple dress, no heavy makeup, but her eyes were bright, like she had a light inside her. I wasn't rich. I wasn't flashy. I was a steady man, a working man, a man who believed that if you show up every day, love will stay. We built our life brick by brick. Apartment first, then a better one, then a small car, then a bigger one when the baby came. I worked long hours, not because I wanted to escape home, but because I wanted to provide. I wanted my son to have what I didn't. Leo stayed home at first, then went back to work part-time. Over time, she started working later, dressing nicer, keeping her phone face down. And I told myself it was normal, because the truth is, men like me don't want to believe they're losing their family. We want to believe our wife is tired, not distant. We want to believe she's busy, not secretive. We want to believe love is permanent, if we just behave well enough. But recently, little things had started to itch at the back of my mind. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped laughing at my jokes. She started saying, "I'm fine," like it was a wall. At night, she would lie in bed scrolling, the screen light in her face while mine stayed in the dark. Sometimes she'd go into balcony to take calls. When I asked who it was, she'd say, "Work." And I believed her, because I wanted to, because believing her was easier than imagining my son growing up in 2 homes, split between 2 lives. After dropping my son off, I sat in the car in the school parking lot. I didn't drive away right away. My hands were on the steering wheel, but I couldn't feel them. I remembered the last time I felt truly close to Leo. It had been months, maybe longer. The night she told me, "You don't see me anymore," I had replied, "I'm doing all this for us." She looked away and said quietly, "Sometimes for us feels like away from me." That sentence had stuck with me, and I promised myself I would do better. So I started trying. I bought flowers. She smiled politely. I planned a dinner. She checked her phone the whole time. I suggested a weekend trip. She said she had deadlines. And now, with Kareem's call sitting inside me like a stone, all those moments look different. Not like stress, like distance, like practice, like she was slowly leaving while still living under my roof. I drove home with one thought repeating, sharp as glass. Before I accuse her, I need to know the truth. Because if I was wrong, I would destroy my own marriage with suspicion. But if I was right, then I needed to protect my son. And I needed to protect myself. I parked the car, sat for a second, and whispered to the empty seat beside me, "Okay, let's find out who you really are, Leo." And I walked into my house like nothing had happened. But inside, the clock had started ticking. That evening, Leo came home later than usual. I heard the door open, the soft click of her heels, the gentle hum she sometimes did when she was in a good mood. In a strange way, that hum terrified me more than silence, because it meant she was happy. And I wasn't sure anymore if that happiness belonged to our home or to someone else. "Hey," she called. I stepped into the hallway and looked at her. She had changed her hair slightly, just a little more style than normal. Her perfume was stronger, sweeter. "Long day?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She sighed dramatically. "You have no idea." I nodded. "Dinner's almost ready." She walked past me, and I caught it. A small detail. Her necklace was on backwards. Now, that might sound silly, but Leo was the kind of woman who fixed her collar in the mirror, who aligned her earrings, who noticed if my shirt was wrinkled. Backwards necklace meant one thing. Someone else had been close enough to her to mess it up, or she had rushed to dress after doing something she didn't want me to imagine. We ate dinner. Our son talked about school, about a drawing he made, about a kid who had taken his pencil. Leo laughed at the right times, smiled at the right moments, but her eyes kept drifting to her phone. Finally, I asked, "Who were you with after work?" She didn't look up, just the girls. I watched her carefully. "Which girls?" She paused too long. "You know, the office girls." I nodded slowly. "Where did you go?" "Just near the river. For tea. Near the river." My stomach tightened, but I kept my face calm. "Sounds nice," I said. "Which cafe?" She looked up then, and her smile was too quick. "I don't remember the name." Leo always remembered names. The tension sat between us like smoke. Later that night, after our son fell asleep, she went to the bathroom with her phone. She used to leave it on the table. Now it never left her hand. I sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. My mind was screaming, ask her, confront her, demand the truth. But another part of me whispered, not yet, because I wasn't just dealing with a cheating spouse. I was dealing with someone who was comfortable lying to my face. And if she could lie smoothly, she could also twist the story. make me the villain, make me the controlling husband, make me the reason she had to leave. I'd seen it happen to men I knew. They confronted too early. The wife cried. The wife denied. The wife ran to family, to friends, to social media. And suddenly the man wasn't a betrayed husband. He was a bad man who accused her for no reason. I couldn't risk that. Not with my son. So I did what I had never done in my life. I started observing. The next day, I paid attention to her routine. She left earlier than normal. She wore a dress she usually saved for special occasions. She kissed our son's forehead. She barely looked at me. When she walked out the door, I heard her saying to her phone, "I'm coming." Not, "I'm coming to work." Just, "I'm coming." That night, while she slept, her phone lit up once on the bedside table. A message preview flashed before the screen dimmed. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't open anything. But I read what I could. Last night was perfect. Same time tomorrow. My chest went tight. My hands shook. And still I stayed silent. Because now I wasn't guessing. Now I had a thread. And I wasn't going to pull it like a fool. I was going to pull it like a man who planned to win. I lay back in bed, staring at the ceiling, and I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was meeting a stranger in her place. And I was about to learn how far she was willing to go. Because if she was careful enough to hide this, what else was she hiding? 2 days later, Lael said she had a work dinner. She said it casually, like it was nothing, like I wouldn't notice the way she avoided my eyes. I nodded and asked, "What time will you be back?" "Late," she said, already walking toward the closet. "Okay," I replied. But inside me, the cold planning voice said, "Tonight, you stop guessing." I put our son to bed early. I read him his favorite story twice because he asked. He wrapped his arms around my neck and whispered, "Dad, you smell like home." That almost broke me right there. When I walked out of his room, my eyes stung. I wasn't just trying to catch a liar. I was trying to keep a child's world from collapsing. Lael came out of the bedroom looking ready, hair done, makeup perfect, dress that hugged her like it was meant for a spotlight. She walked past me and said, "Don't wait up." I forced a normal tone. "Drive safe." She smiled, quick, polite, almost kind. And then she left. I waited 10 minutes, like an idiot praying she'd come back and say, "I'm just joking." She didn't. So I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and I walked out quietly. I followed her car at a distance. Not close enough to be obvious. Not far enough to lose her. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear over the engine. She didn't go toward her office. She didn't go toward a restaurant district where groups of colleagues meet. She went straight toward the river. My stomach turned. Her car pulled into a lot near the cafes, the ones with the string lights that make everything look romantic, like a movie scene. I parked farther away and watched from the shadows, like I was someone I didn't recognize. A few minutes passed. Then I saw him. Tall, suit, confident. The watch Kareem mentioned glinted under the lights. He walked like he owned the sidewalk. And when Lael stepped out her car, she smiled at him in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. He leaned in and kissed her cheek. Not friendly, not polite, familiar, comfortable, like he had done it many times. My hands tightened around the steering wheel until my knuckles went pale. I watched them walk together, laughing softly. His hand rested on her lower back like it belonged there. They entered a cafe, one of the quieter ones near the water. Through the window, I could see them sitting close. Too close. He showed her something on his phone. She touched his arm. She leaned in, and then, this is the part that made my whole body go numb. She took off her ring. Not dramatically. Not like a scene. Just casually. Like it was nothing. Like it was a routine. She put it in her purse and continued smiling at him. I felt my throat close. Because that ring wasn't just jewelry. That ring was a promise I made. The promise she made. The promise our son was born into. And she removed it like a coat she didn't need anymore. I didn't storm into the cafe. I didn't cause a scene. I sat there and watched because I needed more than heartbreak. I needed proof. They stayed for over an hour. Then they left together. He opened her car door for her like a gentleman in a story, and she looked at him like she was living a new story without me. They didn't drive separately. They drove in the same car. My mind went blank for a second, like it refused to accept it. I followed them again, heart beating so loud it felt like it could betray me. They stopped in an apartment building I didn't recognize. He parked. They got out, and then she did something that sealed it. She looked around, not like a woman enjoying her night, like a woman checking if anyone was watching, and for a split second, her eyes scanned the street and passed right over my car. She didn't see me. She didn't know her husband was sitting in the dark, watching his life fall apart in real time. They went inside, and the building door shut behind them. That sound, that door closing, felt like the end of the marriage I thought I had. I sat in my car for a long time, unable to move. Then I whispered the only words that made sense. Okay. Not okay like acceptance. Okay like a man stepping onto a battlefield. Because in that moment, I understood something clearly. Lael didn't just betray me. She chose it. And if she could choose betrayal that calmly, then I could choose my response just as calmly. I started the car, and I drove home, not to cry, not to beg, to plan. The next morning, I made breakfast like usual. Eggs, tea, my son's lunchbox with a little note. My face was calm, my voice steady. But inside me, a storm was learning discipline. Lael came home around 2 a.m. She slipped into bed like a shadow. She didn't smell like work dinner. She smelled like a different life. When she woke up, she acted normal. Too normal. Morning, she said, yawning. Morning, I replied. She glanced at me like she was checking if I knew. I didn't blink. That was my first move. Because a liar always wants to measure your awareness. If you show emotion too early, they adjust. If you stay calm, they get careless. After she left for work, I sat alone and asked myself one hard question. What I want? I didn't want revenge like some loud movie moment. I wanted justice. I wanted protection. I wanted my son to be safe. And I wanted the truth to be seen clearly, calmly, so she couldn't twist it. So I did 3 things that day. First, I called a lawyer, not to attack her, to understand my rights as a father. The lawyer listened quietly and said, do not confront her without evidence, and do not leave the home without a plan. That hit me, because part of me wanted to grab a bag and run. But the lawyer's voice was firm. The one who stays calm wins. Second, I started collecting proof, legally. I didn't hack anything. I didn't do anything crazy. I documented what I saw. Dates, times, locations, notes. I checked our shared finances and felt another punch. There were small transfers. Not huge, but steady. Money moving out like someone was preparing for an exit. Some charges at places we never went together. And one hotel booking canceled at the last minute. My hands shook, but I kept going. Third, I protected my son quietly. I arranged my work schedule so I could pick him up more. I started being the one who attended school meetings. I wanted teachers to see me, to know me, not as the husband, as the father who showed up. Because if this went where I feared it was going, I didn't want anyone to question who was stable, who was present, who was safe. That week, Lael became even more distant. And then she did something that almost made me laugh with disbelief. She tried to pick a fight. Over dishes. Over the TV volume. Over nothing. At first, I didn't understand. Then I did. She was building a story. A story where I was the problem. A story she could tell her family, her friends, even a court. He was cold. He was angry. He didn't care. I had to find happiness. I realized she wasn't just cheating. She was preparing her escape plan. And maybe, just maybe, she was preparing to take my son with her. That thought lit fire in me so hot it almost burned through my calm. But I forced it down, because fire without direction destroys the person holding it. So I began building my trap the way a careful man does. With patience, with timing, with silence. I started being kind. Not fake, Not begging. Just calm. I cooked dinner. I cleaned. I played with our son. I acted like a man who had nothing to fear. And slowly, Leo relaxed. Her guard dropped. She started texting openly, smiling at her phone again. And every time she smiled at that screen, my plan sharpened. Because I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to expose the whole game. Not with shouting. With truth. And the truth, when revealed at the right moment, can shut down a liar faster than any scream ever could. By the end of that week, I had enough notes to fill a small notebook, enough patterns to predict her moves. And one night, as she stood in front of the mirror putting on lipstick for another work dinner, I watched her reflection and thought, you think I'm blind, but I'm watching you build your exit, and I'm building the door you're going to walk through empty-handed. The next piece of the puzzle came from someone I didn't expect. My wife's sister, Isel. She called me on a Saturday afternoon while I was helping my son build a little toy castle out of blocks. Hey, she said awkwardly. Hey, I replied, my heart instantly suspicious. Everything okay? Another pause. Then, can you talk? I looked at my son, smiling as he stacked blocks. Yeah, what's up? Isel lowered her voice. I don't know how to say this, and I don't want to get in the middle, but I feel guilty. My stomach turned. Say it. She breathed in. Lale, she's been talking. Talking about what? Isel hesitated like she was standing on the edge of something dangerous. About leaving. About starting fresh. My throat went dry. Leaving me? Yes, she whispered, and she said something else. I felt my skin go cold. What? She said you wouldn't make it hard because you're too nice. I stared at the blocks in my son's hands. He was humming again, peaceful. Isel continued, words falling faster now. She said she's already arranged something, a place, and she said she might try to take your son because it would look better for her. My vision blurred for a second, not because I was crying, because my brain was trying to process how someone could talk about a child like a trophy. How do you know this? I asked, voice low. She said at my house, Isel replied quickly, like it was normal, like she was excited. And I didn't say anything then, because she's my sister, but your family too. And that little boy, he's not a plan. He's a child. I swallowed hard. Did she say who she's leaving for? Isel went quiet. Then she said the name, a name I recognized from somewhere but couldn't place. Ralph. My jaw tightened. I remembered seeing that name once on a notification when she thought I wasn't looking. Ralph. Suddenly, the man in the suit wasn't just a man. He had a name. Isel's voice trembled. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be doing this behind her back, but I can't sleep. I keep thinking about your son. I forced calm into my tone. Thank you for telling me. When I ended the call, my hand was shaking. Not from heartbreak now, from a different kind of pain. The pain of realizing this wasn't just an affair. It was a strategy. She wasn't falling into a mistake. She was stepping into a plan. And she thought I was too gentle to stop her. That night, Leo came home, smiling like she carried a secret in her pocket. She put her purse down and said casually, we should talk about the future. I kept my face blank. Yeah. She sat across from me and folded her hands like she was about to discuss groceries. I think we've grown apart, she said softly. Maybe we should consider taking a break. A break. The word people use when they want to leave without looking guilty. I nodded slowly. Why do you think that? She sighed, eyes shiny, voice practiced. You're always working. You're emotionally distant. I feel alone. There it was. The story. The story she built while she was laughing by the river with another man. I could have tore it apart right then. I could have said, you feel alone? That's funny, because you weren't alone last night. But I didn't. I tilted my head and asked, what do you want? She looked relieved, like she thought she had me. Maybe I stay with my mom for a while. Take our son with me, just until we figure things out. My heart slammed against my ribs. I kept my voice calm. And I just see him sometimes. She blinked. Of course you'll see him, but he needs stability. Stability from the woman sneaking into an apartment building at night. I almost laughed again. It would have been bitter. Instead, I leaned back and said gently, "Let's not rush. Let's think. For our son." She nodded quickly, relieved again. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. She wasn't asking. She was testing. She was seeing if I would hand my child over easily. I smiled softly and said, "We'll talk more tomorrow." She kissed my cheek lightly and went to bed. As I sat alone in the living room, my calm finally turned into something sharp, because now I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with someone trying to rewrite the truth and take my son as part of her clean getaway. I picked up my notebook, flipped to a fresh page, and wrote one sentence. She wants to leave. She wants to take him. Stop it. Legally, calmly, completely. Then I wrote the name, Ralph, and under it, expose the whole thing. Because if she wanted to play a game, fine. But I wasn't the too nice man anymore. I was the father who planned to win. And the next move would change everything. I chose the day carefully. Not a random argument. Not a late-night explosion. I chose a day when the truth would land where she couldn't twist it. A family gathering. Her mother's birthday. A house full of witnesses. A room full of people who loved her and trusted me. That morning, I woke up early. I packed my son's bag with snacks, a small toy and his favorite hoodie. I wanted him comfortable. Safe. Then I printed out what I needed. Not messy screenshots. Not gossip. Not he said, she said. Simple proof. Dates of transfers from our shared account. Receipts from places she said she never went. A timeline of her work dinners. And, most important, a photo. Yes, a photo. I had been careful. I didn't chase her. I didn't do anything dangerous. But on the night she went into that apartment building, I took one picture from my car. Her, standing beside Ralph. His hand on her back. Her ring missing. Nothing graphic. Nothing dramatic. Just undeniable. When we arrived at her mother's house, Leah was in a good mood. She wore a bright smile, like she was already free. Her family greeted us warmly. Her mother hugged my son. Her father shook my hand. For a moment, I almost hated myself for what I was about to do, because I didn't want to hurt people. But then I remembered. Leah didn't mind hurting me. She didn't mind risking our child's peace. So I didn't know her silence. After lunch, everyone sat in the living room with tea and cake. The room was full of laughter, loud voices, clinking glasses. Leah sat beside me, scrolling her phone under the table, smiling at messages that weren't from me. I waited. Then her mother asked the usual question. "So, when will we see you two take a proper vacation? You both look tired." Leah laughed lightly. "We're figuring things out." Her mother looked surprised. "What do you mean?" Leah glanced at me, then back at them. "We've been distant. I think we might take a break." Her family went quiet, and she did it so smoothly, so softly, like she was the victim. Her mother reached for her hand. "Oh, my girl." I felt a familiar danger. She was starting the story without me, so I calmly placed my tea down and said, "We should talk honestly if we're talking at all." Leo's eyes flashed. "Not here." But I smiled gently. Here is exactly where the truth belongs. Everyone looked at me. My voice stayed steady. I didn't want to do this. But since Leo decided to bring it up, I can't let her change the story. Her mother frowned. "Change the story?" Leo's face tightened. "What are you doing?" I turned slightly toward her family. For months, Leo has been saying she's working late, meeting the girls, having work dinners. Leo whispered sharp, "Stop." I continued anyway. "But she hasn't been working. Not those nights." I pulled out the photo first, because visuals end arguments fast. I placed it on the coffee table. The room went silent. Her mother leaned forward, confused. Her father's face hardened. Leo's breath caught. Isel, her sister, looked down at her hands like she already knew. Her mother picked up the photo slowly. "Who is this?" I answered softly. His name is Ralph. Leo snapped. That's not what it looks like. I nodded. Okay, then explain why your ring is off in this photo. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I added, explain why you told me you were with office friends near the river and then went to a private apartment with him. Her father stood up slowly, voice low. Private apartment? Leo's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape. You followed me? I didn't raise my voice. Yes, because I had to know the truth before you took my son away and called it stability. Her mother gasped. Take your son away? I pulled out the bank transfers next. Also, money has been moving from our shared account. Slowly, quietly, like preparation. Leo's face went pale. Her mother looked at her like she was seeing her for the first time. Leo! Leo started crying. Loud, dramatic. The kind of crying that usually makes people comfort you before they question you. But this time, no one moved, because the room had proof on the table. And proof doesn't care about tears. She looked at me with anger now. You're trying to destroy me. I leaned in slightly and spoke softly, so only she would hear. No, you tried to destroy our family quietly. I'm just turning the lights on. Her father pointed toward the door. Who is Ralph to you? Leo shook her head wildly. It's complicated. Her mother's voice broke. Is it true? Leo's crying slowed. She didn't answer, and that silence was louder than any confession. Then her phone buzzed. She glanced down without thinking, and I saw the screen light up. Ralph, did it go okay? When can you leave? Her mother saw it too. Her hand trembled as she stepped back. Leo's face collapsed. That was it. The moment the curtain ripped completely. No more story. No more excuses. Just truth standing in the middle of the living room. And in that heavy silence, I said one final thing. Clear as day. I won't fight her with anger. I'll fight with facts. And I will not lose my son. Leo stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Because the man she thought she could manipulate was gone. And the father she underestimated was. That night, we went home in silence. Leo didn't speak in the car. She kept wiping her face, but her tears looked different now. Less like guilt, more like frustration. Because she hadn't been exposed privately. She had been exposed publicly. And she couldn't control the story anymore. When we got home, I carried my sleeping son inside. He was warm, heavy in my arms, trusted me completely. I tucked him into bed and watched his chest rise and fall. Then I stepped out and closed the door softly. Leo was in the living room, arms crossed, eyes red. You embarrass me, she said, voice shaking with anger. I nodded. You embarrass yourself. She scoffed. You planned this. I didn't deny it. Yes. Her eyes narrowed. So what now? You think you're some hero? I sat down calmly. No, I think I'm a father. And I think you tried to take my child as part of your exit plan. Her face twisted. That's not. I raised a hand gently. Don't. Not tonight. Not with me. Silence hung between us. Then she said the sentence I never expected to hear from the woman I married. I just wanted to be happy. I stared at her. And you thought happiness required lying? Using our money? Practicing a story where I'm the villain? She looked away. You were never there. I nodded slowly. I was there. I was just tired. And I trusted you enough not to suspect you. She swallowed, voice smaller. Ralph understood me. I almost laughed, but it came out as a tired exhale. Ralph wanted a version of you without responsibility. That's not understanding. That's convenience. The next weeks were hard, but they were clear. I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't threaten. I did everything through proper steps. Lawyer, paperwork, calm communication. I documented my involvement with our son. I kept routine stable. I stayed in the home. And when Leo realized I wasn't going to explode, she tried a new tactic. She tried sweetness. You know, we had good times, she said one night. I nodded. We did. She stepped closer. Maybe we can fix it. I looked at her and felt something surprising. Not hatred, not love, just clarity. Lael, I said quietly, I would have forgiven mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. Her eyes flashed. So you're punishing me? I shook my head. No, I'm protecting what you were willing to gamble. In mediation, she tried to paint me as controlling. It didn't work. Because calm fathers with consistent routines don't look controlling. They look responsible. And because I had evidence of financial moves and deception, the conversation stayed grounded in facts, not drama. In the end, we agreed on shared custody with strong structure. My son stayed primarily with me during school weeks. She had scheduled time, and she had to follow clear boundaries. When we told our son, we kept it simple. Mom and Dad will live in different homes, I said gently, holding his small hands. But we both love you. He blinked, confused. Did I do something wrong? That question shattered me. I pulled him close. No, buddy, never. This is grown-up stuff. You're perfect. After Lael moved out, the house felt quieter. The first night, I sat on the couch and stared at the empty space where she used to sit, and I expected to feel victory. But revenge stories don't tell you this part. Even when you win, something still hurts. Not because you missed a betrayal, because you mourn the person you thought you married. I never got her back, but I got something else. I got my dignity back. I got my stability back. And I got my son's trust intact. Months later, I saw Lael in a public place with Ralph. They looked polished, smiling, like they were showing the world they won. But then my son squeezed my hand and said, Dad, can we get pancakes? And I realized I won, not because she suffered, but because I didn't let betrayal turn me into a broken man. I didn't let anger ruin my fatherhood. I didn't let her rewrite reality. Here's the moral. I learned the hard way. Sometimes the biggest revenge isn't yelling. It isn't exposing someone for attention. It's staying calm, staying smart, and protecting what matters most. Because when someone betrays you, they want you to fall apart. They want you to lose control. They want you to become the monster in their story. Don't give them that. Be the truth. Be the proof. Be the parent who shows up. And when the dust settles, you won't just survive betrayal. You'll walk out of it with your head up, your heart stronger, and your life back in your own hands.